And so what I wanted to really do was to do an agronomy or agronomist vlog. I was hoping to do it from my truck and can really find proper mounting locations in my truck, just because Wisconsin has a law. Basically, we can't obstruct the windshield, so I can't put my suction cup mount on the window, and just I could not find a good mounting spot in my truck. And the nice thing about aluminum body is it doesn't rust, but on an aluminum body truck, there is no magnetic spots to really mount any cameras. So anyway, we're going to do it from my office for today, and I'd like to do some of these as the summer kind of goes through. Ideally, I was hoping to have some of these, and we have a lot of good things to talk about. Here's what I'm doing today. We're scouting a bunch of fields, and we're finding some small issues. We'll look to this year, and we're finding lots of issues. I've got guys mudding in corn, and I sent somebody a text message this morning, and I said, usually when I talk about guys mudding in corn, we're talking about, the ground conditions aren't 100% perfect. It's a little muddy underneath. This year, we're literally talking about guys driving into mud to plant corn, and it's just been kind of a nightmare. I was talking to somebody this morning, and we're thinking maybe 40-50% of the corn's in, and we're looking at seed returns, and I have a lot of stuff going on that none of them are good right now. So what I guess I wanted to talk about was and some of my experience, and maybe for some of the guys that are younger in agriculture, it's going to be a lot of people's first years or second years, or maybe you started in 2013 or 14 when we started having some really good crops and we were having some decent prices. A lot of that's changed in the last month or the last couple of years, but anyway, so my first year in Wisconsin was in 2008, and for those who don't know, 2008 for us was a flood year. We had, I think we had 12 inches of rain within 3 days in June, and then we had another 10 or 12 inches in July. And our corn crop that year was not great. I can remember farms averaging 40-50 bushel of corn. I had a couple guys, I know one person, I got in the combine with a guy, and the guy was crying when I got in the combine. So my first year was that. We had it was not a good year. And then my second year was 2009 for us, which was a late plant, somewhat similar to this year, but we still got everything planted. And we had a cool growing season. I remember, actually remember a couple guys' farms I was at wearing a heavy coat in August looking at corn. And we ended up with, I think, the driest corn that year. We were looking through some of our farm records. Some of our driest corn was like 23-24%. And I remember we were combing a lot of corn in the end of November, and I think on our farm we finished the day before Christmas, and it was like a foot of snow on the ground. So I remember that year we had a lot of rain in October, and our corn was high moisture. We got an early frost, it artificially black layered, and it was just full of mold. It was just a bad year. So my first 2 years were just total junk. And I'll tell you right now, in 08 and 09, there was a bunch of times I thought about just packing it up and heading back to Indiana and just kind of throwing a towel on it and trying to figure out what the heck I'm going to do with my life. And I'll tell you right now, there's some times where I have second thoughts about what I've done, leaving the co-op system and then going to do this. But at the same time, we talked about it at length at the farm. I kind of control my own destiny a little bit now. So, obviously if I'm working in a co-op, maybe they lay people off. I have no clue what's going to happen, but it's going to be interesting. I keep saying that, but I don't know what's going to happen this summer. And if you're your first year, few years in agronomy, and this kind of stuff happens, I'll tell you, I developed a lot of relationships and good relationships. And the fact that I kind of stuck around and stuck through that stuff, everybody always says the light's darkest before the dawn. I got through it, and it was not fun the first few years, but I know after I got through that stuff, everything went really well up until this year. But for the most part, the fact that you can stick around and You're not just going to haul off and leave at the first chance of something going wrong. That kind of shows perseverance, and people really respect that. And it's going to be tough. I mean, for us, there's a lot of guys that aren't going to have any corn planted. There's some guys with a little bit of corn planted. There's guys with lots of corn planted, and it's not in the greatest of conditions. And it's going to be rough this year. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do for the year. But, hey, I'm looking at the fact that I can do some soil sampling, and I'm doing a lot of different stuff this summer. I might hop in a sprayer for a little bit for a couple guys. And, there's lots of things I could do this year. And I'm just kind of looking at those as, hey, it's something to get done. But, like I said, it's going to be tough, especially if you're young and new, and this is a totally new experience for all of us. I've never been through a year where we had prevent plant potential like we do this year, or the amount of issues we've had like this year. I've been through some years where we had some mudded in corn, but I've never seen anything like this. And some of my best advice is going to be take lots of notes, take lots of pictures. There's often I pull back to 2010, 2011. I wish I would have took more pictures in 08 and 9. But I pull back to a lot of pictures I took, my first few years doing this when I'm doing speaking engagements and stuff. We do meetings, and there's a lot of those pictures I can't recreate. And they're kind of nice to have. It's not nice that it's going to be something we can have the opportunity to do this year. But there's a lot of that stuff you can glean experience from. I mean, I'm never gonna, after this year's over, I'm not gonna be like, I didn't get anything out of that year. There's always gonna be something I can pull from this year. There was one year when I worked at one of the co-ops, we had a sprayer go down, blew the engine, middle of spraying season, and I looked at the applicator and I said, after this is over, we're going to laugh about it. And I'm laughing about it now, but at that point, I thought that was like the end. That was like the worst summer. And then 2014 came around, and that was like the worst summer. And then 2018 and 17 came around, that was the worst summer. And this year is going to not be fun either. But, hey, kind of stuck around and persevered, and I'm still here. And I think a lot of guys respect that. And, I've respected that when I've had people go through some issues, and they've kind of stuck around and been by my side too. So anyway, that's my vlog for this week. And I'd like to do these, obviously on some better terms, but, hey, we'll just kind of walk through it together. And I'd like to do it in a field, but it's 50 degrees again today, and windy and rainy. And I mean, we can't really catch a break. But the other thing, and I'm going to leave on this, and like I talked about in 08, I had a lot of guys that had some issues that year. I will guarantee you there'll be some guys that are not doing well in this. I will not say that, I haven't had some issues, mentally a little bit. I've been thinking about a lot of stuff. Haven't lost a lot of sleep, but at the same time, I'm still thinking about, how am I going to survive? How's my business going to persevere through this? How are we going to get through all this stuff? My first year working with a new seed company, and, my first year we're going to return like half my seed. So how the heck is that going to work? What are they going to say when that happens? But I really think, and I've done this, I think you should spend some time this week or whenever you have time. We get these rain days. Stop by a guy's places, and don't even do it for a sales call. If you know the guy pretty well, stop by, just check to see how they're doing. And don't ask a lot of probing questions or anything, but just kind of stop by and be your normal self. Don't talk about the weather. Don't talk about how things are going in the fields. Just joke around with them. I got one guy that called me the other day who wanted to hear my Christopher Walken impersonation. It's just those things. Just kind of be on the light side a little bit. But yeah, really just check on some guys. I had a couple last fall that I did that with, and it was probably a good thing. And there's lots of help out there. There's going to be some guys really having some issues. I don't know what to tell you other than that, but just take the time. Sometimes it kind of stinks, and it's not fun conversations to have with guys. But if it were me, and honestly, what I'm going to be doing, and this is the same thing, I'm going to be out talking to guys, and hey, just check in and see people. Just check them out. And even if you're a farmer watching this, and I'm talking mostly about agronomists, give your neighbor a call, talk to them, see how everything's going, and you just never know. People struggle with stuff that's beyond your control and then beyond your knowledge a lot of the time. And I will say, I wear my emotions on my sleeve a little bit, so it's kind of usually fairly easy to see how everything's going with me. But at the same time, I'm like Chandler from Friends. I use humor to kind of deflect some things. And, the guy I'm partnering with, Dennis, we talked about it the other day, and he said, I've never really seen you down like this, and I'm kind of worried about you. And I said, well, customer relationship, hi Katie, the dogs are visiting today, but, our customer relationship we had, I was the salesperson, he was a customer. I said, I didn't really share with you guys a lot of what was going on. I kind of just laughed it off and kind of make jokes and be my lighthearted self. And I said, now that I'm kind of your partner, we're working together on this stuff, or at least I'm working for him. I said, now you're kind of starting to see how I am when I'm with somebody that I'm working with. And that's just how I am. And that's the same thing too. You're going to have guys that are just like, I'm fine, and joke around. But at the same time, I would be struggling with something. So, don't go in there and ask them something directly about what's going on. But just kind of gauge guys' interest, and do the same thing if you're farming. Talk to the neighbors, see how they're doing. Sometimes all it is a call and say, hey, I'm thinking about you, or we care about what's going on with you guys too. And a lot of that makes a big difference. I've gone out on my own now a little bit, and it's harder to, before I had kind of some mutual people that I could talk to about all this stuff, and now that I've gone out on my own, it's all like me and my wife, and sometimes she's kind of getting a little concerned. But overall, I'm fine. But still get out and see some guys, and reach out to the neighbors, reach out to other people in your profession, just see how they're doing. And just talk to them about what's going on. Tell them you're thinking about them. But in all seriousness, that's the end of this. But hopefully I'll have more vlogs coming up. I really kind of felt like this was important today. I would be remiss if I didn't say that I'm concerned about some people too, in my area, people that I know really well. And I'm thinking about them, and I'm giving them calls and talking to them this morning, trying to figure out, just, hey, we're just talking through stuff and just joking around as much as we can. So anyway, we'll get off of this. This is getting kind of bad, but hopefully we get some more stuff. Hopefully the sun shows up. Maybe we'll get some more stuff planted in halfway decent conditions. We're going to be experiencing some things this summer that no one's ever really gone through. We've talked about the pick year before. If you don't know what the pick year is, PIK, do some Google research on that. It was an interesting year. They paid people not to plant corn in 1983. So, we're not going through that kind of a scenario, but we're going through a different scenario now. Interesting things are going to happen this summer. And to me, I'm not necessarily looking forward to it, but it's going to be interesting to go through it and maybe document some of that stuff. So anyway, keep the faith, try to kind of make sure you're doing all right. If you have an issue, talk to somebody about it. I'm pretty much point blank with people. I think I sent somebody a message this morning that said send all the Tylenol. So, my head's just hurting from just thinking about all the stuff that's going to go wrong or could go wrong or everything else. But, we're going to work through it. So anyway, stay tuned. Should have some stuff pretty new soon. Maybe I'll do a Christopher Walken impersonation. Somebody calls me, but I'll catch you guys later.